I've just filmed at least, I think, 3 different videos for this particular painting, and I'm going to take you through it. So this first video, and I think it's, I did the background, the sky, blocking in, and then I did the midground, the shoreline, the brush, and then I finished with a video on how I paint the water. So, of course, with this video, we're going to block it in, and I'm going to show you how I set up the painting from the start, and then paint in the background and the mountains. So it should be a lot of fun. How to paint mountains, how to paint some small distant trees and things like that. And one more thing I almost forgot that I'd like to share with you guys is I now have a new partnership, an affiliate. I'm an affiliate with Blick Art Materials. Now the reason that I've done this is because I continue to get a ton of questions about the materials I use. So I am not sponsored by any way or in any way by any particular art products, whether it be brushes or canvas, stuff like that. I use what I like, and I try and I test, and if I like something, I'll recommend it. And so that's exactly what I want to do with you guys. So I've created an entire list of the art supplies that I use, and you can find this. I'll have the link pop up in a card here, but all of these links will now be in the description below here of what materials, including the brushes, the canvas, the paint, the gesso, everything that I use to complete each particular painting, as well as links on where to find them so you can go right to them. And if you want to, you can purchase them through Dick Blick. They usually have free shipping over anything $35, I believe. And of course, a lot of you guys as well also ask me how to support me. And so these are affiliate links, of course. And so every time you use the affiliate links to purchase art supplies, you'll be supporting my dream to continue to provide you guys with this quality content. So I appreciate your guys' support. I don't really care where you like to buy your art materials or where you choose to, but I just felt that this would be a great opportunity to share with you guys on exactly or precisely what I use to paint each particular painting. So check out the link in the description below or the card that pops up, and it'll take you to a page on my website where you can find all of the products that I use to create my artwork. All right, so enough said. Let's get into the painting, and I don't think there's anything else to say. I'm pumped about it, so let's get to it. I've got my sketch laid out on the canvas now, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. So I've sprayed it with a fixative, and I'll kind of cover what I've done here along the way. So I'm now ready to block in with paint. So let's go over to the palette. All right, now I've got some brushes laid out here. I also have my paint. I'm going to start with just letting you know that I'm trying some new paint here. Atelier, I'm not good at pronouncing that. Interactive Artist Acrylic. I'm not ready to talk about this yet. I'm just experimenting, seeing how it goes. So I'm using this brand paint for both my titanium white, and this is French ultramarine blue. So just letting you know, I'll probably cover this in a future video coming up here soon after I get a few more paintings done with this brand of paint, just to let you know what I think. So that's what I've got for these two colors over here. And then I've, of course, have my Liquitex soft bodies and I believe, quinacridone magenta, my lovely label here, is golden flute acrylics right there. So we have burnt umber. Let's just go through the beginning. Titanium white, ultramarine blue, burnt umber, quinacridone magenta, and we have naphthol crimson, and then cad yellow light. So for my brushes then, I'm going to start by using this 1-inch flat brush, and these two right here, these brushes, Winsor & Newton Eclipse, I think they've been discontinuing these brushes because I can't really find them anymore. At least that's what it looks like, but that's what I'm going to be using for this, the beginning of this painting. Just maybe it's a 3/4 inch flat brush or bright brush, but I've got a lot of those recommended. You don't have to use this one. The ones that I have recommended on my materials page on my website are all just as good. So I like them all. But anyways, I'll be starting with a flat brush. And then I've got a couple filberts here, some smaller ones. Of course, I have my round brushes and then probably my round blenders. And then I'll probably be using, this is a small round brush along with maybe a little bit more of a fatter one as I get into the details. But let's start with this big flat brush here. And actually, sometimes I like to take, if I can find just a brush I don't care about as much, just for mixing paints. Probably can use this one over here. So I'm just going to get some water on the palette. I always like to get water on the palette itself, so I can just pick up a little bit when I need it. And I'm going to start with some white. And I'm going to add just a tiny bit of blue in that. I'm going to go slow here to start. We got a little more blue. Just don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay. It's a pretty good blue. I'm going to need more, though, than that for the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag all this white over here. Add some blue. And that's a pretty good sky color. So I'm going to start with that. Now I've got my water on the palette, so I'm just going to pick some up with my flat brush. Or a bright. I really don't know if this is a flat brush or a bright. It says flat/bright. There you go. Okay. Now, that goes on a lot bluer than what it looks like on the palette, because the white is just kind of a stark contrast against it. You realize how blue that actually is when you have a white background around it. Add a little bit of white to it. That should work. Pick up a little more water. Just keep that paint flowing. I'm just going to go across the top here with some blue. Some of it might get covered up. That's all right. Just a good start. All right. I'm going to wash my brush. Squeeze out some of that water. Okay. Now, I don't really want to get into some blue quite yet when it comes to the mountains here, so I'm going to pick up some white. And I'm going to grab a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, both sides of the brush here, mix them in, a little more yellow. And then I want to gray that down, so I'm going to add some umber along with my blue mixture here. Just try that for now. Probably get away with a little more red and umber. I'm just looking for areas. I'm going to actually try to get this darker. So I'm going to add some umber to this mixture over here. Let's go ahead and block in. Kind of change my mind as I go. Block in some of this darker area. Boy, we're going to need a lot darker than that. Add a little bit of red to it. A little bit of white. I've got a mess going here. This is why I shouldn't mix with these large brushes. Maybe a little quinacridone. Okay, I'm going to start with that. Add some white. Something I don't like about this color, it's a little bit, and I'm still getting used to this new paint here. Get a bunch more. Let's go back to mixing with this. Just going to add some white and some quinacridone to that color. I'm just kind of comparing it to my reference, just trying to get it right. I think that's closer. I'm just going to kind of mix that together, pick that up. A little more white. Quinacridone. All right. That's pretty good. Now I'm just going to take white, and I'm just going to use the color on my brush. Just kind of mix that in. Grab some red. So the main thing I'm just trying to do right now is cover the canvas. Things will come to me as I go, but really not concerned about much of anything, as you can see right now. Some more white. Okay. Pick up some more white. All right. I'm gonna wash my brush. And I think I want that sky to be slightly darker than the mountains. It's going to be too dark. I'm going to come back in just a second and I'm going to kind of clean up what I'm doing here and then continue on. All right, so just kind of stood back a second, cleaned up a few things around my workspace just to get back on track. So let's continue on with the sky. I've used a palette knife just to kind of scrape some of the color on the palette here over into a pile. And of course I got some more white. I'm going to mix some white with some of that color. Just got a little bit ahead of myself, it happens. I'm going to add some yellow and red. Just want to get a little bit of an orange. Mix that in. Pick up some of that color with my flat brush. Yeah, one thing I don't like about this paint is how much it takes. It's harder to cover, which I've noticed. It just takes more paint. So I'm kind of stretching myself with this painting. I think it'll go all right, but it's definitely a learning curve. A little more orange. I'm going to kind of blend that up into the sky. Okay. That'll work for now. I'm gonna wash my brush. And I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna pick up some of that paint again. Not quite sure if I have the right color for the mountains yet. Might be more, yeah, a little bit lighter there. It's going to be more this color. Slightly lighter. It's probably more of a warmish tone. But like I said, it's not a huge deal. You're just getting started here. Just want things to be close. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, I'm going to pick up this filbert brush. I'm going to go ahead and grab some blue and some umber. We're going to mix them together with some white. We'll get kind of a gray, blue-gray. I would just add some of this white to it. Something like that. I think I'm going to test this out. I think this is going to be about right. Now, what this color will represent is our tree line. And so I'm just blocking it. I'm not looking for individual trees right now. Sometimes helps with the rest of the painting. I know it's looking a little bit rough up top here so far, but yeah, I just like to keep moving, get the rest of the painting in, and I'll adjust, make the corrections as I go. I'm confident I'll find the solution. It's just not all paintings start perfect. I think this is a good example, but I think I can see it, know where I want to go with it, so I'm just going to keep going. All right. It's good enough for now. I'm going to wash my brush. And I'm going to go ahead and get some more burnt umber and blue. I'm going to want some more blue in this mixture. Get some more. All right, just add some blue to that. I think maybe some more blue. Touch of white. More blue and a touch of white. This will act as a ridge that appears to be a little bit closer. Slightly darker. And I want that ridge to appear to be darker, a little bit lower, because it's coming towards us, of course. So I'm just mixing up some more blue and umber. And it's going to be a lot darker. I'm just going to bring that right down to about there. All right. That is looking good. Now, I'm going to go ahead, give the brush a wash again. Get some white, and I'm going to grab just a touch of that color that I was just mixing, and I'm going to add some orange to it as well. A little more orange, just trying to warm that up. And right through here, I'm going to add that snowy covered ridge. And just bring it down a little early, about right there. Okay. I'm probably just going to keep with that color and just continue on all the way down into here. And then over on the right, so I'm going to have to wash the brush again. some more umber, and I'll probably switch back to that filbert brush I had. And I'm going to mix some blue and umber together. It's going to be quite dark. Okay, and I'm going to add some yellow to that with a touch of white. Not too much. So I'm mixing to the side that you can see, and then I'll just add it to my mixture so I don't overdo it. Let's see if that, yeah, I think that's going to work. So it's just a bit darker than what's behind back there. Of course, we want everything to become darker as we get closer to the viewer. So I'm just giving the indication of some trees. And we'll bring those all the way into here. I'm just going to kind of scrub them downwards. Something like that. And I'll probably just take some water, add a bit of a lighter gray, add some white to that. And just underneath here, I'm going to add some of this lighter gray. And that's going to represent some snow underneath the trees, which I'll work on later, but I just want to get that covered. Okay, I'm going to take a quick 5 minutes here, and I'm going to wash my water out, and we'll come back in just a few. All right, so the first portion of this so far, from kind of here on up, everything we've done, has been from my one reference photo. Now, I've got a few others, and I've sort of put together something in my mind that represents the few others into one here of a river going back with some willows, and we want some shoreline and some grass, things like that. I might add an animal, perhaps a moose. Not quite sure yet what I'm going to do with that, but I want to add the river, I want to add the willows, things like that. Just give it some more color. So I'm going to grab some quinacridone and probably just mix it right here. A little bit of water, quinacridone. And I'm going to pick up some of that white that's already on the palette underneath here. Quinacridone, and umber, and then a little bit of naphthol crimson. And I think that's going to be close to the color that I'm looking for. Probably add a little bit of blue and umber to that. So I'm going to add that there. I'm going to get a little more blue and umber. I'm going to add it over here. So of course this is representing our willows. Grab some more. A little bit back here. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I think what I'm going to do is go directly into the water since I already have this color kind of on the brush. I'm going to add some blue to the mixture. Get a little more red with that, but a significant amount of blue. A little bit of umber. A little more red. Something right, probably. Go ahead and just add more umber. Something right around in there. And underneath here, we're going to add the reflection in the water of this color, as well as over here. A little bit back there. Okay. I'm going to wash the brush. And I'm going to have to pick up some more white. I'm going to take that white and go ahead and just mix it right into some of this color here, but I'm going to add some blue. So the result is going to be sort of a gray. A little more of this color, a little more blue. You know what, I'm going to grab some yellow, add some yellow to that. A little more yellow. There we go. That just neutralizes it somewhat. I'm going to try to paint around some of this color I laid down. Looking good. Some water to that. Okay, now I'm going to pick up some white, add some white into the mixture. Gonna go right in the middle of all this. Okay, that's pretty good. Go ahead and leave that for now. And I'm going to add, wash my brush. I'm going to pick up some yellow and red. Get some orange in here. Just mix that in, starts to dull it down. We've got some gray on there already. Pick up some umber. More yellow. I think that will do. Little circular motions. Just kind of blend that up into the red. And this sort of becomes our grass. Just sort of block that area in back here. Okay, so one last step. I'm just going to add some blue to some umber here. Need to wash my brush first. Pick up some blue. Mix it into the umber, and I'm just going to go ahead and just add the indication of some shadows. Good enough. Okay, so this painting is, in my eyes, blocked in, and I'm now ready to go back and start refining everything. There's going to be a lot of changes to this. This is just the blueprint. This is just the beginning. So I'm going to take a step back and let everything dry. We'll come back and we'll start with the sky. All right, now I've let this dry for a while, and I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. We'll start with the sky, like I said, and let's go over to the palette. So I might be getting out some round blender brushes. Yeah, I'm going to go with a small and a large. I'm probably going to stick with this old Filbert brush as well. So what I'm going to do to start with is I want to mix sort of a gray. I've got the same colors, just moving further down the palette here. I'm going to start by mixing some gray. So I'm going to get some umber, some ultramarine blue, a little bit of magenta. Just go ahead and add some white to that. A little more umber. And what I'm going to do is grab a whole bunch of white. I'm going to add some blue. Probably about like that. We'll see. I'm going to grab some water, a little more gray to that. Loosen it up a bit with that water. I'm just pulling this color down from the top, so this is obviously not quite as blue as what I had on there. I'm just making an adjustment. I'm actually going to grab my round brush here. Okay. Kind of wash that out. I'm going to take some white. Mix some water into that. I'm going to start to think about some highlights in the clouds. So I'm going to take this round brush. Probably add just a little bit of orange to this as well. So just mix up kind of an orange color. Mix that right in. So I'm just thinking about highlights right now, just trying to figure out where those highlights are going to be. This is like adding one more level of detail. And then I'm going to add a bit of gray into this. And I'm not extremely concerned with how this is going to look during the acrylic portion here. I always like to add oils over the top to finish my paintings, and a lot of subtle corrections can be made much easier during that portion. So I'm just trying to quickly get this as close to being finished as I can. And I'm going to take some white. Let's add some up top here. It's going to be much brighter. I already don't like that more gray blue color I added, so I'm going to end up removing some of that. I like it over here, not right there. Let's go ahead and just grab some blue right now. Mix it in, test it out here quick. Add some water. A little bit of gray. A little more blue. That's much better. Grab some white. And just kind of fluff that out. Okay, so that's a step closer. I'm going to let that dry and just continue on with the mountains. So I'm going to grab my filbert brush. I'm going to start with just some white. And I'm going to make sure all my mountains are covered here. And I'm going to add just a bit of color to this. A little bit of yellow and red. And I'm just looking for those tones. Not looking for details. I'm just trying to figure out, based on my reference photo, if I've got the colors right and the contrast right, and also the shape. I'm just going through and making some adjustments. So this becomes a very tedious part of the painting, as you hear me say so often. It's all tedious. But what I'm going to have to get into is just slowly refining each part. Grab a little more gray. So this next portion of the painting, this stage, I'm really just concerned about, as I said, getting the values right, getting the color right and the contrast. The rest can come at a later time. As long as we have those values right, things are going to look good. As long as we have the colors right, it will be accurate. Got some leftover white paint over here. Just going to grab some of that. Add a little bit of gray. And I want this to be brighter than the horizon, so I'm going back to the clouds. So this is what I'm talking about, the tedious process. You get into the things like the mountains and you find that perhaps your clouds are just a little bit too dark. So you have to go back and then you'll return to the mountains and then go back to the sky again. It just becomes this never-ending process, it seems like, of going back and forth trying to figure it out. But as long as you can just accept that and enjoy trying to figure it out, enjoy the process, it becomes easy. A little more water. So as I get the color of the mountains more so correct, get them closer to the color I want, then I can kind of determine exactly what needs to happen with the sky. Okay, I'm kind of running out of palette space here, so I'm going to take a break real quick, change my palette out, and we'll come back. All right, now before I get any further, I'm just going to take some white real quick. See if I can do this. Some white, some blue, some umber. A little bit of red and yellow. I'm going to try to fix this spot. Some of the paint pulled up on me, and it wiped it off all the way down to the canvas. I had that white spot right there, and that is these interactive Atelier paints that I'm using. They don't dry quite as quick, which is nice for some things, but not for that. So it'll just have to do for right now. Doesn't look perfect. It's hard to match the same color, but good enough for right now. I don't want to go any further. Normally I would keep going with the sky, but I don't want to go any further right now because that paint doesn't seem to want to dry quite so quick. So let's get to some of the mountains. I'm mixing up a color that I'm going to paint the rocks in the mountains with. And you can see I've switched to my number 6 round by Princeton. Let's go darker with that. Just take some more umber and blue. And I think I've got the color that I need. So let's start up top here. And I'm going to start taking this round brush. Probably add some white. I'm waiting for that to dry, and I'm looking at it. It's a little bit too bright or too dark, actually, I think. Okay, that might be more what I'm looking for. Now, what this is going to do for me is help me realize that a lot of this area is too dark to begin with, because I want this, what I'm laying down, to be my darks, and that's not necessarily quite dark yet. It's about the same color. In fact, even a bit lighter in some areas. So what I'm going to have to do is just mix some white into that color. And just start to lighten up some areas around it. Much better. So you can see those dark rocks that I've just added now are starting to stand out. Makes sense a little bit more. But it's okay, because some of that color that I had under there prior to adding this color over the top, I'll probably leave. And that'll show through, create some cool effects. For the most part though, I'm going to try to get rid of it. So you can see I quickly switched to a small brush like this round brush I'm using. I really like to get detailed with my paintings. You know, that's just a personal preference. This is not something that I recommend everybody doing. A lot of people like to paint more loosely. But I've just learned that I'm much happier painting in my own way. Such as what I'm doing right now. And so really want you guys to find that for yourselves. So don't feel like you have to paint like me. Try to pull some advice, some tips, techniques here and there, and come up with something that is really true to yourself. That's really what I want to see you guys accomplish. Because you're going to paint better, you're going to be much happier doing so. So if you're struggling and you really don't like following along with me, or you don't like painting anything like I do, it might not be what you're painting, but it could be how you're painting it. It's just something to keep in mind. So hopefully, if I remember to do so, you'll have the reference photo up on the screen where you can kind of compare what I've got here versus what I'm looking at. You can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. Area through here needs to be lightened up. So I'm going to split, and I'm making this decision right now. I'm going to end up splitting this video, this painting, into 2 videos. And this first video will be everything behind the foreground area. So just the mountains back here, and the cloud. I might darken a couple areas with the clouds. I'll show you that before I move on here to the next thing. But this first video will cover all the details, the trees and such throughout the mountains and the rocks. And then The next video, the second video, will cover the water, the trees in the foreground, get a bit detailed into that. But what I'm getting at, and I'm so sorry to do so, but I'm going to get to work, really get deep and get into this heavy. And I'm going to have to speed up some of this, but, and I know a lot of you guys don't want me to do so, so I will have this be slower than normal, and I also will have different parts slowed down. The repetitive portions, I'll make sure that those are just not skipped over, but probably that'll be the sped up portions. And then if I switch to a different technique, if I go from the rocks to the trees or vice versa, I'll make sure to slow it down as I do it, so you can kind of see how it maybe if I move from the rocks to the trees, I'll slow it down and I'll show you how I'm doing each individual tree. But then the rest of it will be repetitive. There's not a lot left to do here other than just the repetitive motion of adding details with the small round brush. And I have got to get this painting done, hopefully today, by the end of the day. And so I'm going to get to work. And remember, if you guys had questions about this next portion here, I'm happy to answer. But before, and I'm rambling here, I'm rambling heavy in this video. Before I get to that, I'm just going to show you what I meant about the clouds, adding some darker areas. So I'm going to take some blue, some umber, a little more blue. I'll just mix this pile here and see what this looks like. A little more white. Okay, let me try this here. Ooh, it's going to be pretty powerful. A little too dark, so I'm going to add some white. Keep adding white. Okay, it's probably a bit closer. What I'm going to end up doing is just shading a few areas here. I'm not looking to make this perfect yet. Like I said, I will be adding oils to smooth all this out. Might be a tad too warm. I want to add some blue to this. But be adding some shadows to some of these clouds, trying to make a few of them pop out towards the viewer. It's a work in progress. So again, I'm just looking for the right tones. I'm not necessarily concerned about each individual cloud, making them perfect. I just want the color to be right. I want everything to flow together. But that's a little bit of a start there, just adding some definition, some shadows to the clouds, and I'll kind of build from that as I go. But I'm going to keep on working throughout this middle ground area, the background in the mountains, and then we'll talk about it when I'm ready to move to this next portion. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and break apart this painting right here, and I'll include the foreground in part 2 of this series, which hopefully will be in the next couple days or so. So look out for that. I may even add some wildlife, thinking possibly a moose, but we'll have to see about that. So anyways, I'm happy with it so far. I think that all it needed was that tree detail, and as I added those pixelations of trees through the back area up here, and then especially once I got into here, I really felt good about where I was at, and I feel like I can now envision the finished painting, which is really the turning point for me. So once I can see the finished result in my head, I know where I'm going with it. It becomes a lot easier, and I think all this needed was the tree detail. So when I was doing this in real time with you guys, I'll admit before that tree detail was there that I wasn't 100% happy with it. I felt like it really wasn't going as well as it could be. You know, it's just tough for me to do it in real time in front of the camera and try to focus, which is partly some of the reason why I do speed it up at times, so I can sit down and focus on that portion. But that's what I realized was all it needed was a little bit of extra detail, and those trees covered up any imperfections that I might not have been happy with, and it really started to come together in the end. So I'm thrilled with how this is going, and I can't wait to get started with the lower half. I'm going to work all afternoon today, and then begins the video editing, and hopefully I'll share these videos with you guys soon. So thank you so much for watching, and remember that if you want to support my channel, please check out my free print giveaway as well as my eBay auctions and website. Remember that I auction off all the paintings I do here in the videos through my eBay, and all of those links are in the description below. Thank you again so much for watching. We'll see you next time.